Facebook, and hello YouTube. Good evening. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy of Mythical Ireland. This is episode number 137 this evening. We are reading the third and final part of the Voyage of Mael Dúin. We've had a little bit of fun with this one, and we've increased the frequency of the episodes to daily for a very good reason, in order to finish the story and not leave huge gaps in it. A very good evening to all those of you on YouTube. Sandrine Brady is the first in the house tonight, and Daisy Peters, who's really glad to be back. Sorry, I have an eyelash in my eye. She wants to continue to enjoy this fascinating voyage of Mael Dúin and his companions. Mandy McCurl is in the house. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all keeping well and staying safe. We had a sunny day with very hard frost. Beautiful, just like today's picture. Yes, and my thanks to Jay Plenio on Pixabay for the wonderful picture. It was cloudy here today, and we got an extraordinary red sunset. And it's due to get very cold here over the next couple of days. Archaeoastronomy Database, hi all, 3 in a row. What a treat. Yes, indeed, as was your video about Sirius and Newgrange. Folks, if you haven't seen that, I posted it on the main Mythical Ireland page yesterday evening. Very interesting video there by ArchDB. Joan McH is in Howth in Dublin, is joining us again. Hello again, Joan. Good evening to you. This is a wonderful site. I started again from episode 1, just after last night's part 2 story. I love this community. Thanks. Great to have you along. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Mez Marion says, Anthony, you wonderful storyteller, history finder, and sharer of the beautiful. Blessings to our friends and family. Well, that's very nice, Mez Marion. I'll sort you out with that 10 euros later on. Maureen O'Leary says, today I get to join live for cruise 3 of Mael Dúin's travels among the Irish constellations, stars and celestial bodies. Permission to come aboard, sir. Permission granted. Lar Herbert says, hi all. Giaguch Lar. Who else? John Main is in the house. Trononoa on Tua Golair. Looking forward to the final episode of the Irish Odyssey. Hello, John. Good to see you. Who else have we got? A lot of people talking to each other, which is wonderful. Mark Rhodes, Taylor, Kate Mila, Fulcha. Good evening, everyone. I hope that everyone is well. Fulcha, Anthony. Yes, indeed. Mark, welcome to the third part of the story of the Voyage of Mael Dúin. On Facebook, Robin L. Rickman is the first of the, commenters tonight. Hello, Robin. Paul Alburn says hello from Daphne, Alabama, on the Alabama Gulf Coast. Hello, Paul. You're very welcome on board. Janet Moran says hello from happy Boston. Hello, Janet Giaguch. Good evening to you. And Scott Doherty says, tuning in for the rest of the story. Brilliant. Edward Curry is saying hello from New York City. Hello, Edward. Good evening. Good afternoon to you. Ralph Waldron says, good evening to part 3. Yes, indeed. A little bit less rain today, Ralph. Brendan Byrne says, hi all. Giaguch, Brendan. Lorraine Marr Humour says, so glad to be here away from the politics. It's sunny and 66 degrees in Virginia. Nice one, Lorraine. Sláinte. Barb Jordan says, hi everyone. Fáilte. Marie Landon says, hello everyone. Good day / eve to all. I'm loving these daily lives. Glad you're enjoying them. And sláinte to you. Steve Martinson says, hello Anthony and everyone here today. Hello Steve. Nick Eska Casterton is in the house. This is brilliant and much appreciated. Love to all the Tua. Brilliant stuff. Movanwe Millward says, oh no, I missed part 2. Devastated. I should say this is a bit of a recurring theme. Basically, Mael Dúin and his companions sail for days, get hungry, encounter a mysterious island, usually with either mysterious creatures or mysterious humans on it. Sometimes they get onto the island and get fed. Usually after getting fed, they go to sleep and then they wake up on the boat again. So it just follows a familiar pattern. You didn't miss much except for maybe the occasional injection of extra humor by my good self. I'm not sure whether that's a bonus or not. Joanne Dagg says hello from Northern Ontario. Hello, Joanne. Welcome. Good afternoon to you. Jules Cousin says hello all. Banachty. Adina Sparks is in the house, says hello, Anthony and Tua. Happy to be able to be here today. We are glad you're able to join us. Liam Smith says, hey, Anthony and crew. reporting. On board, sir. Yes, you can be the man at arms. What year was the tale written? Ooh. I think the scholars believe that it was first written down in the 8th century AD, but it survives in fragmentary form in 4 different manuscripts, including the earliest collection of Irish tales in a manuscript, which is Laur na Hira, the Book of the Dun Cow. Sorry, that would be early 11th century, the early 1000s AD. But, I mean, in terms of when was the story, you know, how far back does it go? Who knows? Edina Spark says, I missed it too. We'll have to watch later. Definitely. So you'll be getting part 3 first and then part 2 later. Anne McCallum is in the house, says, hello, Anthony and the mighty Tua de Anton. Greetings to all and hope everyone is well. Today, no sun, no rain, no sleet, but snow. Hope you made a snowman. Catherine Woodruff is in the house. Hello, Catherine. Desiree says, absolutely loving this story. Best one yet. Hello to the Tua from sunny Louisiana. Hello, Desiree. Glad to hear. Pardon me. Glad to hear the sun is shining in your part of the world. Marie Cronin says, Fáilte gach duine. Yay, Fáilte, Marie. Brendan Burden suggests that tonight's episode is going to feature more monsters, mulled wine, and mayhem. Probably not wrong. Yvette Tilema says, hi all, so glad to jump into the Curragh, but I not catching the clue. Good evening, good afternoon, Yvette. You're welcome. Valerie Gallagher says, 3 days in a row. Thank you. Sure, don't you know, it's my pleasure. Always glad to do it. Terry Lynn Zacharias says, hello from Colorado. Good afternoon to Colorado from Ireland. Judy McQueen is in the house. Hello, Judy. Welcome on board. Amy Wallace Dolan says, good evening, everyone. Fáilte, Amy. Nick S. Casterton says, forgot to add, it's a Bailey's evening. Sláinte. Sounds good. Nice one. Leon Leach says, how do all? You've made it a trinity now. Yes, indeed. Joe Butler says, another day and another voyage. Hello to the mighty Tua. Hello, Joe. Karen Gogus is in the house. My good friend. Hello, dear friends. Hello, dear Anthony. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. Always a great pleasure to have you in the house, in the library. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter suggests that she's getting spoiled to see me every day. Well, I hope that you're enjoying the story and the little bit of we have, in fairness, been having quite a bit of fun with this one. Patricia McAteer is in the house. Nice picture of the red sky this evening, Patricia. Lovely. Always lovely to see pictures from your part of the world. Tom King says, good evening, Anthony and all the Tua. This is so enjoyable and very much appreciated, Anthony. Thank you. Well, Tom, you're very welcome. Shay Honus says, hello, Anthony, from North Queensland, Australia. Hello. Good morning to our Australian viewers. It is Thursday morning already down under. It's still Wednesday night here. It's so good to see you. Margaret Kiernan says, good evening, Anthony, and all the mighty Tua. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Margaret. The mighty Tua, they are. Rose Corraine says, hi, Anthony and Tribe. Geoglitch Rose. And who else? Everybody's in fine form. This is great. Nate Brydenbaugh says, hello and all the best to Anthony and the Tua. Listening in while doing my guitar etudes. Very nice, Nate. Well, I hope that the combination of music and story is a good one. Michelle Rhodes says, hi to all from Sheffield. Storm Christoph and flood warnings abound. Perhaps a little bit apt for the tale. Samantha Healy on Facebook says, hello, Anthony and the wonderful Tua. And Mark Munoz says, hello, all from a snowy New Mexico. Wow. It is snowing in New Mexico. That is incredible. Sandrine Brady, or is it Sandrine, says, hello, Super Tua. Hello, Anthony, Mandy, Debbie, AD, John, and all of you. I was about to drink a glass of champagne, but I'm alone tonight, so I raise my virtual glass to you. Cheers and sláinte. Cheers and sláinte to you. Movanui says, I'm sorry I missed the crack. I had to go to the dentist yesterday as well. Would have lifted my spirits. I'm sure it would. But you can still watch back. It's still there on Facebook and, of course, on YouTube. Desiree says, Anthony did some readings using famous movie characters. You don't want to miss those voice impersonations. Did you say you don't want to miss them? Not sure about that, but yes. Just before we kick off, just to say, don't forget that I think if Teresina is there, the auction of Teresina's painting, her beautiful painting of Newgrange, is still open for bids. All money raised will go towards the repatriation fund to bring Kelly Edmiston home to New Orleans and to help pay towards a funeral. And we're very grateful to Teresina. Her work is on the Mythical Ireland community page on Facebook, also shared on the main Facebook page, this one, if you want to have a look at that. If you want to just make any sort of a donation to the GoFundMe campaign, I will just paste a link in there beneath this video on YouTube and Facebook. If that is your, I mean, even if you had a $5 or a $10, I'm sure it would be appreciated. Sean Harding is in the house as well. Good evening to you. Hi. Sorry, I just need to switch something off here. So you might hear the little fan heater going. It's just to keep the place warm, so I apologize. Laura Mullen, yes, I understand. Laura is watching two things at one time. That's perfectly okay too. Where are we now? To make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, we did kind of stop halfway through a chapter yesterday, and there's loads to go. Plenty of reading to go. Anyway, let's start mid-chapter. This is the one called, this is chapter 28, and it is the chapter that's called The Island Queen Detains Them with Her Magic Thread Clue. CLEW. Roberto is in the house, says greetings from Galicia. Hello. Falcha and Christy Goodlet is also here. Hello, Christy. Any poems in today's reading? There might be one or two. I think I saw some smaller text. Yes, there are one or two. Yes. By the way, my wife tells me I'm the cheapest man in the world. I'm not buying it. Wilt thou go from us today? Asked Mael Dúin. I must needs go even now, she replied, to give judgments among my people. Sorry, I forgot to take note of the time. 12 minutes. So that's episode 137, 12 minutes. Cheap with all those books, says Christy. Yes, indeed. To give judgments among the people, but as to you, you will all stay in this house till I return in the evening, and you need not trouble yourselves with any labour or care. They remained in that island during the 3 months of winter. Wow, this is a long stay. Usually they're only hanging around for a day or two, or 3 days and 3 nights in some cases. And these 3 months appeared to Mael Dúin's companions as long as 3 years. Mariana Dunn is in the house from Virginia. Hello, Mariana. For they began to have an earnest desire to return to their native land. At the end of that time, one of them said to Mael Dúin, "We have been a long time here. Why do we not return to our own country?" Do you know what? I'm actually warm enough. I think I will turn off the fan heater because it's rather competing. It's noisy. Yes, that's better. What you say is neither good nor sensible, answered Mael Dúin. For we shall not find in our own country anything better than we have here. But this did not satisfy his companions, and they began to murmur loudly. "It is quite clear," said they, "that Mael Dúin loves the queen of this island. And as this is so, let him stay here. But as for us, we will return to our own country." Mael Dúin, however, would not consent to remain after them, and he told them that he would go away with them. Now, on a certain day, not long after this conversation, as soon as the queen had gone to the great plain to administer justice, according to her daily custom, they got their curragh ready and put out to sea. They had not gone very far from land when the queen came riding towards the shore, and, seeing how matters stood, she went into the palace and soon returned with a ball of thread in her hand. Walking down to the water's edge, she flung the ball after the curragh, but held the end of the thread in her hand. Mael Dúin caught the ball as it was passing, and it clung to his hand. And the queen, gently pulling the thread towards her, drew back the curragh to the very spot from which they had started in the little harbour. And when they had landed, she made them promise that if this ever happened again, someone should always stand up in the boat and catch the ball. Shocking is one of the reactions to that joke. Yes, indeed, I completely concur. The voyagers abode on the island, much against their will, for 9 months longer. For every time they attempted to escape, the queen brought them back by means of the clew, as she had done at first, Mael Dúin always catching the ball. Ah, yes, he must have been a Mayo man, or a dub. At the end of the 9 months, the men held council, and this is what they said. Elizabeth Redabaugh says, warm before the storm here on the plains of Colorado. Rowan Grove says it's windy in Denver. Wow. Different weather, huh? Oh, it's not really surprising. We had clouds on one half of Ireland today and rain, and clear and cold on the other half. And it's a small country, as you can imagine. That sort of thing isn't unusual. We're very influenced by the Atlantic weather. The ocean has its say in our weather. We now know that Mael Dúin does not wish to leave the island, for he loves this queen very much, and he catches the ball whenever we try to escape, in order that we may be brought back to the palace. Charlie Grover is in the house. Good evening to you, Charlie. Joan says, certainly not a Mayo man. Yes, I'll tell you who's good with handling the ball is Meath. That's all I'll say about that. No, I don't mean that as a compliment either. But we better not talk Gaelic games, or we'll get people's backs up. Mael Dúin replied, let someone else attend to the ball next time, and let us try whether it will cling to his hand. They agreed to this, and, watching their opportunity, they again put off towards the open sea. The queen arrived, as usual, before they had gone very far, and flung the ball after them as before. Another man of the crew caught it, and it clung as firmly to his hand as Mael Dúin's. And the queen began to draw the curragh towards the shore. Laura Puente is in the house. Hello, Laura. Valerie says, my partner's family is from Tupper Lake. I don't know where that is, by the way. Where is Tupper Lake? I apologize for my lack of knowledge. But Duran, drawing his sword, cut off the man's hand, which fell with the ball into the sea, and the men, gladly plying their oars, the curragh resumed her outward voyage. When the queen saw this, she began to weep and lament, wringing her hands and tearing her hair with grief. And her maidens also began to weep and cry aloud, and clap their hands, so that the whole palace was full of grief and lamentation. Graham Crawford announces in Sydney, after 9 months watching these on catch up, finally caught one live. Brilliant stuff, Graham. Good morning to you, and you're very welcome along to our storytelling. But nonetheless, did the men bend to their oars, and the curragh sailed away. And it was in this manner that the voyagers made their escape from the island. The next chapter is chapter 29, the Isle of Intoxicating Wine Fruits. Sounds like our kind of island, doesn't it? Sorry. They were now a long time tossed about on the great billows, when at length they came in view of an island with many trees on it. Well, that's interesting because, oh yes, upstate New York. I was responding. I apologize, Valerie, for imposing upon a conversation that you were having with Yvette. Yes, I'll just step aside here now and let you at it. These trees were somewhat like hazels, and they were laden with a kind of fruit which the voyagers had not seen before, extremely large and not very different in appearance from apples, except that they had a rough berry-like rind. After the crew had plucked all the fruit off one small tree, they cast lots who should try them, and the lot fell on Mael Dúin. So he took some of them and, squeezing the juice into a vessel, drank it. It threw him into a sleep of intoxication so deep that he seemed to be in a trance rather than in a natural slumber, without breath or motion, and with the red foam on his lips. It does altogether, doesn't it, sound like an experiment in intoxicating substances to see what sort of dreams emerge, and let's write the dreams down, and it's all these weird visits to weird islands with huge animals on them. Alex Casterton is in the house. Hello, Anthony and Tua. I've been listening on my dad's phone. Dad's just popped out to get my mom from work. Oh, that's fair enough. He's very good to do that so that she doesn't have to walk home. Brilliant. And from that hour till the same hour next day, no one could tell whether he was living or dead. Here we go again with that tea, says Desiree. Yes, psilocybin tea with a hint of hint of strawberry juice, shall we call it? Kerem Goga says, I want dreams like that too. Yes, Mark Rhodes Taylor points out something, that is that birds can actually become drunk on fermented fruit due to the fruit turning into alcohol. Yes, indeed. And Mandy says, and bees. Hick. John Main is reminding me about the quiz. Oh, yes, the quiz. Oh, I'm very much looking forward to that. That would be good fun. Barbara is in the house, says greetings from Alaska. Hello, Barbara. Very good morning. I think it's still morning in Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. Great to see you in the house. Yes, we're going to have a Mythical Ireland Live Irish Myths quiz, which will consist of questions based on the episodes. I promise I won't make it too difficult. And there'll probably have to be some sort of a prize as well. We'll do that on Zoom sometime in the next few weeks or the next month. That will be good fun. I very much look forward to that. When he awoke the next day, he bade his people to gather as much of the fruit as they could bring away with them. He obviously enjoyed his trip. For the world, as he told them, never produced anything of such surpassing goodness. They pressed out the juice of the fruit till they had filled all their vessels, and so powerful was it to produce intoxication and sleep that, before drinking it, they had to mix a large quantity of water with it to moderate its strength. Are we talking about whiskey here or what? Can we call a friend or 50-50, says Helena Breen. Yeah. Look, as I said, I can't police you guys. You guys may be Googling stuff, but I'll trust you not to cheat. More fool me. No, it'll be good fun. It'll be for fun, and it won't be competitive. But I will throw in one or two real difficult ones just to see who's been paying attention. This is chapter 30, or as P.W. Joyce has it, chapter XXX. the Isle of the Mystic Lake. The island they came to next was larger than most of those they had seen. On one side grew a wood of yew trees and great oaks, and on the other side was a grassy plain with one small lake in the midst. A noble-looking house stood on the near part of the plain, with a small church not far off, and numerous flocks of sheep browsed over the whole island. Sounds very normal Irish scene, really, doesn't it? Movanwe wants to know what the prize is. Well, I haven't decided yet. Be something from my collection of maybe a book. Who knows? Yeah, I'll think about that. The travelers went to the church and found it'll be a flask of psilocybin tea. Sorry. The travelers went to the church and found in it a hermit with snow white beard and hair, and all the other marks of great old age. Mael Dúin asked who he was and whence he had come. He replied, I am one of the 15 people who, following the example of our master, Brendan of Birra, sailed on a pilgrimage out into the great ocean. After many wanderings, we settled on this island, where we lived for a long time. But my companions died one after another, and of all who came hither, I alone am left. And there's a note, it says number 20. There must be a footnote somewhere. Number 20. Let's see. This is obviously the Brendan, you know. St. Brendan of Birra. I have already in the preface spoken of the celebrated voyage of St. Brendan of Birra, which is Birr in King County, or Offaly, undertaken in the 6th century. He set out from near Brandon Mountain in Kerry, sailing westwards into the Atlantic Ocean, and, according to the belief of some, he landed on the shore of America. Take that, Christopher Columbus! Brendan is one we'll feature in a future episode. He had many imitators who ventured out on the great ocean in their currachs as pilgrims, but none were so enterprising as himself, or met with such a variety of strange lands. If we accept Mael Dúin and the 3 sons of O'Cara, whose adventures are quite as surprising as those of Brendan. I wonder, did Brendan also imbibe certain illicit substances? Well, they mightn't have been illicit in those days, but they certainly would be these days. Yeah, can I have a draft of that? What's that DMT beer that you have there? Oh, sorry, never mind. The old pilgrim then showed them Brendan's satchel, which he and his companions had brought with them on their pilgrimage. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hello, Burr. And Mael Dúin kissed it, and all bowed down in veneration before it. That all sounds very Catholic, doesn't it? You know, to have a relic, some sort of an item belonging to a saint, and to parade it round the place and for people to venerate it. And he told them that as long as they remained there, they might eat of the sheep and of the other food of the island, but to waste nothing. Am I missing anything? No? Good. One day, as they were seated on a hill, gazing out over the sea, they saw what they took to be a black cloud coming towards them from the southwest. They continued to view it very closely as it came nearer and nearer, and at last they perceived with amazement that it was an immense bird. For they saw quite plainly the slow, heavy flapping of his wings. When he reached the island, he alighted on a little hillock over the lake. And they felt no small alarm, for they thought on account of his vast size that if he saw them, he might seize them in his talons and carry them off over the sea. So they hid themselves under trees and in the crannies of rocks, but they never lost sight of the bird, for they were bent on watching his movements. Seamus Marr is enjoying the crack. Hello, Seamus. Welcome along. He appeared very old, and he held in one claw a branch of a tree, which he had brought with him over the sea, larger and heavier than the largest full-grown oak. It was covered with fresh green leaves and was heavily laden with clusters of fruit, red and rich-looking like grapes, but much larger. He remained resting for a time on the hill, being much wearied after his flight, and at last he began to eat the fruit off the branch. After watching him for some time longer, Mael Dúin ventured warily towards the hillock to see whether he was inclined to mischief, but the bird showed no disposition to harm him. This emboldened the others, and they all followed their chief. The whole crew now marched in a body round the bird, headed by Mael Dúin, with their shields raised. And as he made no stir, one of the men, by Mael Dúin's directions, went straight in front of him and brought away some of the fruit from the branch which he still held in his talons. But the bird went on plucking and eating his fruit and never took the least notice. On the evening of that same day, as the men sat looking over the sea to the southwest, where the great bird first appeared to them, they saw in the distance two others, quite as large, coming slowly towards them from the very same point. Sorry, I apologize. Okay. On they came, flying at a vast height, nearer and nearer, till at last they swooped down and alighted on the hillock in front of the first bird, one on each side. Although they were plainly much younger than the other, they seemed very tired and took a long rest. Then, shaking their wings, they began picking the old bird all over, body, wings, and head, plucking out the old feathers and decayed quill points, and smoothing down his plumage with their great beaks. After this had gone on for some time, the three began plucking the fruit off the branch, and they ate till they were satisfied. Next morning, the two birds began at the very same work, picking and arranging the feathers of the old bird as before. And at midday they ceased and began again to eat the fruit, throwing the stones and what they did not eat of the pulp into the lake, till the water became red like wine. After this, the old bird plunged into the lake and remained in it, washing himself till evening, when he again flew up on the hillock, but perched on a different part of it to avoid touching and defiling himself with the old feathers and the other traces of age and decay, which the younger birds had removed from him. On the morning of the third day, the two younger birds set about arranging his feathers for the third time, and on this occasion they applied themselves to their task in a manner much more careful and particular than before, smoothing the plumes with the nicest touches and arranging them in beautiful lines and glossy tufts and ridges. And so they continued without the least pause till midday, when they ceased. Then, after resting for a little while, they opened their great wings, rose into the air, and flew away swiftly towards the southwest, till the men lost sight of them in the distance. Meantime, the old bird, after the others had left, continued to smooth and plume his feathers till evening. Then, shaking his wings, he rose up and flew 3 times round the island, as if to try his strength. Sheila Gunn says she's glad she got on today. Yes, we're glad that you are on board the Curragh as we sail onwards through this mighty voyage. And now the men observed that he had lost all the appearances of old age. His feathers were thick and glossy, his head was erect, and his eye bright, and he flew with quite as much power and swiftness as the others. Alighting for the last time on the hillock, after resting a little, he rose again, and turning his flight after the other two, to the point from which he had come, he was soon lost to view, and the voyagers saw no more of him. It now appeared very clear to Mael Dúin and his companions that this bird had undergone a renewal of youth from old age, according to the word of the prophet, which says, quote, "Thy youth shall be renewed as the eagle," unquote. Durin, seeing this great wonder, said to his companions, "Let us also bathe in the lake, and we shall obtain a renewal of youth like the bird." But they said, "Not so, for the bird has left the poison of his old age and decay in the water." Durin, however, would have his own way. Anybody predict what's going to happen next? And he told them he was resolved to try the virtue of the water, and that they might follow his example or not, whichever they pleased. So he plunged in and swam about for some time, after which he took a little of the water and mixed it in his mouth, and in the end he swallowed a small quantity. He then came out perfectly sound and whole, and he remained so ever after. For as long as he lived, he never lost a tooth or had a grey hair, and he suffered not from disease or bodily weakness of any kind. But none of the others ventured in. Well, there you go. If you had predicted he was going to come out and stumble about as an old man and fall to his knees on the shore, you would have been wrong. The voyagers that's what I would have guessed, by the way, so I would have been wrong too. The voyagers, having remained long enough on this island, stored in their curragh a large quantity of the flesh of the sheep, and after bidding farewell to the ancient cleric, they sought the ocean once more. And here we have a poem. Sandra Boothroyd joins us just as we're about to read the poem. Now once again, when winds and tide combine, the flying curragh cleaves the crested brine. Far to the west an island rose to view, with verdant plains, clear streams, and mountains blue. An aged hermit, bred in Erin's land, welcomed and blessed the chieftain, and blessed the chieftain and his band. Brought food and drink, and bade them rest a while, and view the wonders of that lovely isle. Yes, indeed, Anne McCallum says Fountain of Youth. Why didn't the ancient cleric bathe in the water, says Joan. Interesting. Maybe he had done and he hadn't told them. But he has to have done at an advanced age because he was grey, and old and bent. Lo, from the sea, 3 birds of monstrous size, with vast wings slowly moving, cleave the skies. And as they nearer drew, the sailors saw one held a fruit branch firmly in his claw. Down by the clear, mysterious lake they light, eat from the branch, and rest them from their flight. Kristen Murray Andre declares that I'm so mad I've missed episodes 2 and 3. You must have missed 1 and 2. Somebody cause more trouble for me when they get to the next creature. The aged bird with plumes decayed and thin paused on the brink a while, then plunging in, he bathed and soothed his feathers o'er and o'er, shook his great wings and rested on the shore. Now while the other 2 his plumes arrange, through all his frame appears a wondrous change. His eyes grow bright, his head erect and bold, his glossy plumage shines like burnished gold. Free from old age, his glorious form expands, in radiant youth and beauty proud he stands. Such was the gift that lake of wonder gave, such was the virtue of its mystic wave. Fountains of Youth, yes indeed. Sorry, I keep forgetting what page this finishes on. We've good bit to go yet. Chapter 31, the Isle of Laughing. Sounds like one I might enjoy. But we'll hold on to see whether there are any bad jokes. They next came to an island with a great plain extending over its whole surface. That poem, Chris, it's in Joyce's, like this is the book I'm reading, Joyce's Ancient Celtic Romances. There are obviously poetic strains in the original, and he has translated them, but he's translated them into sort of a rhyming English, so one wonders how close they are actually to the original. They saw a vast multitude of people on it, engaged in sundry youthful games, and all continually laughing. The voyagers cast lots who should go to examine the island, and the lot fell upon Mael Dúin's 3rd foster brother. Donna Moyers correctly points out that he's like a phoenix, but rising from the water. Very interesting observation. Donna, very astute. The moment he landed, he went among the others and joined in their pastimes and in their laughter, as if he had been among them all his life. His companions waited for him a very long time, but were afraid to venture to land after him, and, at last, As there seemed no chance of returning, they left him and sailed away. Can you believe that, the buggers? He was only just having a bit of fun, and they left him there. Bloody hell. Chapter 32, The Isle of the Blessed, Blest. They came now to a small island with a high wall of fire all round it, and there was a large open door in the wall at one side near the sea. They sailed backward and forward many times, and always paused before the door. For whenever they came right in front of it, they could see almost the whole island through it. And this is what they saw. A great number of people, beautiful and glorious looking, wearing rich garments adorned and radiant all over, feasting joyously and drinking from embossed vessels of red gold which they held in their hands. The voyagers also heard their cheerful, festive songs, and they marvelled greatly, and their hearts were full of gladness at all the happiness they saw and heard, but they did not venture to land. Chapter 33, XXXIII. Aye, Captain. Yes, never mind. The Hermit of the Sea Rock. A little time after leaving this, they saw something a long way off towards the south, which at first they took to be a large white bird floating on the sea, and rising and falling with the waves. But on turning their curragh towards it for a nearer view, they found that it was a man. He was very old, so old that he was covered all over with long white hair, which grew from his body. Recurring themes again, ladies and gentlemen. And he was standing on a broad, bare rock, and kept continually throwing himself on his knees, and never ceased praying. When they saw that he was a holy man, they asked and received his blessing, after which they began to converse with him. And they inquired who he was, and how he had come to that rock. Then the old man gave them the following account. I was born and bred in the island of Tory, and that's Tory Island off the coast of Donegal, where there was a monastery dedicated to St. Columkill. When I grew up to be a man, I was cook to the brotherhood of the monastery, and a wicked cook I was. For every day I sold part of the food entrusted to me, and secretly bought many choice and rare things with the money. Worse even than this I did. I made secret passages underground into the church and into the houses belonging to it, and I stole, from time to time, great quantities of gold vestments, book covers adorned with brass and gold, and other holy and precious things. Well, that's really interesting from the point of view that a lot of ecclesiastical settlements around the 9th, 10th, 11th centuries had or would have had souterrains or similar underground tunnels underneath them as hiding places from Viking raids. And precisely the sort of things that the Vikings treasured most, and of course the softest targets were the monasteries, the ecclesiastical settlements, were the gold vestments, anything metallic, and the book covers. The books of the time would have been great treasures. I soon became very rich and had my rooms filled with costly couches, with clothes of every colour, both linen and woolen, with brazen pitchers and cauldrons, and with brooches and armlets of gold. Here we go. Here's the National Museum collection again. Nothing was wanting in my house of furniture and ornament that a person in a high rank of life might be expected to have, and I became very proud and overbearing. One day, I was sent to dig a grave for the body of a rustic that had been brought from the mainland to be buried on the island. I went and fixed on a spot in the little graveyard, but as soon as I had set to work, I heard a voice speaking down deep in the earth beneath my feet. Do not dig this grave. That's what the voice said. I paused for a moment, startled, but recovering myself, I gave no further heed to the mysterious words, and I again began to dig. The moment I did so, I heard the same voice, even more plainly than before. Do not dig this grave. I am a devout and holy person, and my body is lean and light. Do not put the heavy, pampered body of that sinner down upon me. But I answered, in the excess of my pride and obstinacy, I will certainly dig this grave, and I will bury this body down on you. If you put that body down on me, the flesh will fall off your bones and you will die, and be sent to the infernal pit at the end of 3 days, and moreover, the body will not remain where you put it. What will you give me, I asked, if I do not bury the corpse on you? Everlasting life in heaven, came the reply. How do you know this, and how am I to be sure of it? I inquired, and the voice answered me, The grave you are digging is clay. Observe now whether it will remain so, and then you will know the truth of what I tell you. And you will see that what I say will come to pass, and that you cannot bury that man on me, even if you should try to do so. These words were scarce ended when the grave was turned into a mass of white sand before my face. And when I saw this, I brought the body away and buried it elsewhere. It happened some time after that I got a new curragh made, and the hides painted red all over, and I went to sea in it. As I sailed by the shores and islands, I was so pleased with the view of the land and sea from my curragh that I resolved to live altogether in it for some time. And I brought on board all my treasures, silver cups, gold bracelets, and ornamented drinking horns, and everything else, from the largest to the smallest article. I enjoyed myself for a time while the air was clear and the sea calm and smooth. But one day the winds suddenly arose, and a storm burst upon me, which carried me out to sea, so that I quite lost sight of land and knew not in what direction the curragh was drifting. After a time, the wind abated to a gentle gale. Gentle gale. We don't do gentle gales. It's like force 12, Force, what is it? Gale is force 10, isn't it? 11 is storm, and 12 is hurricane. The sea became smooth, and the curragh sailed on as before, with a quiet, pleasant movement. But suddenly, though the breeze continued to blow, I thought I could perceive that the curragh ceased moving, and, standing up to find out the cause, I saw with great surprise an old man not far off, sitting on the crest of a wave. Which is what you do, don't you? You sit on the crest of a wave. He spoke to me, and as soon as I heard his voice, I knew it at once. But I could not at the moment call to mind where I had heard it before, and I became greatly troubled and began to tremble. I knew not why. Whither art thou going? He asked. Where are you going? I don't know, I replied, but this I do know, I am pleased with the smooth, gentle motion of my curragh over the waves. You would not be pleased, replied the old man, if you could see the troops that are at this moment around you. What troops do you speak of? I asked, and he answered, all the space round about you, as far as your view reaches over the sea and upwards to the clouds, is one great towering mass of demons, on account of your avarice, your thefts, your pride, and your other crimes and vices. He then asked, do you know why your curragh has stopped? I answered, no, and he said, it has been stopped by me, and it will never move from that spot till you promise me to do what I shall ask of you. Is everybody all right on YouTube? Desiree just got kicked off. I replied that perhaps it was not in my power to grant his demand. It is in your power, he answered, and if you refuse me, the torments of hell shall be your doom. He then came close to the curragh, and, laying his hands on me, he made me swear to do what he had demanded. What I ask is this, said he, that you throw into the sea this moment all the ill-gotten treasures you have in the curragh. Apparently YouTube is back. Okay, good, brilliant. This grieved me very much, and I replied, it is a pity that all these costly things should be lost. To which he answered, They will not go to loss. A person will be sent to take charge of them. Now, do as I say. So, greatly against my wishes, I threw all the beautiful precious articles overboard, keeping only a small wooden cup to drink from. You will now continue your voyage, he said, and the first solid ground your curragh reaches, there you are to stay. He then gave me 7 cakes, yummy, I wonder are they Black Forest, gateau, and a cup of watery whey as food for my voyage, after which the curragh moved on, and I soon lost sight of him. And now I all at once recollected that the old man's voice was the same as the voice that I had heard come from the ground when I was about to dig the grave from the body of the rustic, for the body of the rustic even. I was so astonished and troubled at this discovery, and so disturbed at the loss of all my wealth, that I threw aside my oars and gave myself up altogether to the winds and currents, not caring whither I went. And for a long time I was tossed about on the waves. I knew not in what direction. At last it seemed to me that my curragh ceased to move, but I was not sure about it, for I could see no sign of land. Mindful, however, of what the old man had told me, that I was to stay wherever my curragh stopped, I looked round more carefully, and at last I saw, very near me, a small rock level with the surface, over which the waves were gently laughing and tumbling. I stepped onto the rock, and the moment I did so, the waves seemed to spring back, and the rock rose high over the level of the water, while the curragh drifted by and quickly disappeared, and I never saw it after. This rock has been my abode from that time to the present day, and this very much sounds like the Christian idea, the Catholic idea of a purgatorio, where you have done wrong, avarice and greed and theft, and in return for confessing your sin and trying to absolve yourself of it by giving away the stolen materials, you at least save yourself the fires of hell, instead going to this rock in the sea as a sort of place of purging. For the first 7 years, I lived on the 7 cakes and the cup of whey given me by the man who had sent me to the rock. By God, they must be big cakes. At the end of that time, the cakes were all gone, and for 3 days I fasted with nothing but the whey to wet my mouth. Late in the evening of the 3rd day, an otter brought me a salmon out of the sea. But though I suffered much from hunger, I could not bring myself to eat the fish raw, and it was washed back again into the waves. Gollum, yes, with his fish, juicy fish. I remained without food. What's taters? Precious. I remained without food for 3 days longer, and in the afternoon of the 3rd day, the otter returned with the salmon, and I saw another otter bringing firewood. And when he had piled it up on the rock, he blew it with his breath till it took fire and lighted up. Wow. Sushi, sashimi. And then I broiled the salmon and ate till I had satisfied my hunger. Isn't that wonderful? We've got otters that bring food, otters that bring firewood, and even otters that breathe fire. Brilliant. The otter continued to bring me salmon every day, and in this manner I lived for 7 years longer. The rock also grew larger and larger daily until it became the size you now see it. Don't encourage me about Gollum. At the end of 7 years, the otter ceased to bring me my salmon, and I fasted for 3 days. But at the end of the 3rd day, I was sent half a cake of fine wheaten flour and a slice of fish. And on the same day, my cup of watery whey fell into the sea, and a cup of the same size, filled with good ale, was placed on the rock for me. These are like, the aquatic version of FedEx Utterly ridiculous, says Desiree. It's like, yes, I ordered 7 cakes on Amazon. They're being delivered by Otter this afternoon. And so I have lived, praying and doing penance for my sins to this hour. Each day my drinking vessel is filled with ale, and I am sent half a wheat flour cake and a slice of fish, and neither rain nor wind, nor heat nor cold is allowed to molest me on this rock. Valerie says he oughter be grateful for the food. Oh, dreadful. Yes, this story is very fishy. This was the end of the old man's history. In the evening of that day, each man of the crew received the same quantity of food that was sent to the old hermit himself, namely half a cake and a slice of fish, and they found in the vessel as much good ale as served them all. The next morning he said to them, "You shall all reach your own country in safety, and you, Mael Dúin, you shall find in an island on your way the very man that slew your father. But you are neither to kill him nor take revenge on him in any way. As God has delivered you from the many dangers you have passed through, though you were very guilty and well deserved death at his hands, so you forgive your enemy the crime he committed against you." After this, they took leave of the old man and sailed away. And here we have, in poetic form, the old hermit's story. And we're nearly finished. What time are we on? We're nearly at the hour. That's perfect timing. Janet Moreland says, "That's pretty nice purgatory, that." Movanwe says, "There are otters in the river outside here, but they never share their food. I'm not sure that they would either." Yeah. "No sushi for him," says Mandy McCurl. The old hermit's story. "The storms may roar and the seas may rage, but here on this bare brown rock, I pray and repent and I tell my beads, secure from the hurricane's shock. For the good, kind God, in pity to me, holds out his protecting hand, and cold, nor heat, nor storm, nor sleet can molest me where I stand." Lovely otter there, Karen. "I robbed the churches and wronged the poor, and grew richer day by day. But now on this bare brown ocean rock, a heavy penance I pay. A bloated sinner died unshrived, and they brought his corpse to me. Go dig the grave and bury the dead, and pray for the soul set free." Yes, what did Mael Dúin do so bad that he needed forgiveness? Yeah, "God has delivered you from the many dangers you've passed through, though you were very guilty and well deserved death at his hands. So you forgive your enemy the crime he committed against you." Don't know, can't see the logic in it. But then, if you're looking for logic in old Irish tales, you're looking in the wrong place. "I dug the grave, but my hands were stayed by a solemn and fearful sound. For the feeble tones of a dead man's voice came up from the hollow ground." The dead monk speaks up from the grave. "Place not that pampered corpse on mine, for my bones are weak and thin. I cannot bear the heavy weight of a body defiled by sin. I was a meek and holy man. I fasted and watched and prayed. A sinner's corpse would defile the clay where my wasted body is laid." The old hermit continues his story. "The voice then ceased, and I heard no more its hollow, beseeching tone. Then I closed the grave and left the old monk to rest in his coffin alone. My curragh sailed on the western main, and I saw, as I viewed the sea, a withered old man upon a wave, and he fixed his eyes on me. He spoke, and his voice my heart's blood froze, and I shook with horror and fear. 'Twas the very voice of the dead old monk that sounded in mine ear." The dead monk speaks again. Far from my grave the sinner's corpse in unhallowed clay lies deep, and now in my coffin undefiled, forever in peace I sleep. Go live and pray on the bare brown rock, far out in the stormy sea, far out indeed. This story has been quite far out. A heavy penance for heavy crimes, and heaven at last for thee. See what I mean? Purgatorio. The old hermit ends his story. And here I live from age to age. I pray and repent and fast. An otter brings me food each day, and I hope for heaven at last. The tempests roar and the billows rage, but God holds forth his hand. And cold nor heat, nor storm nor sleet can harm me where I stand. Nice, but you can see that this story, I'm not sure. Yeah, it has this. It has all the feelings of a story that was contrived in Christian times rather than interfered with. There's so much in it, but who knows? You know, who knows? There are very ancient voyage tales. Chapter 34: Signs of Home. Soon after, they saw a beautiful verdant island with herds of oxen, cows, and sheep browsing all over its hills and valleys. But no houses nor inhabitants were to be seen, and they rested for some time on this island and ate the flesh of the cows and sheep. One day, while they were standing on a hill, a large falcon flew by, and two of the crew, who happened to look closely at him, cried out in the hearing of Mael Dúin, "See that falcon! He is surely like the falcons of Erin." "Watch him closely," cried Mael Dúin, "and observe exactly in which direction he is flying." And they saw that he flew to the southeast without turning or wavering. They went on board at once, and having unmoored, they sailed to the southeast after the falcon. After rowing the whole day, they sighted land in the dusk of the evening, which seemed to them like the land of Erin. Chapter 35. Mael Dúin meets his enemy and arrives home. And yes, folks, unfortunately, this is the very last short chapter of the tale. Then we shall have to do some more of these stories, definitely. On a nearer approach, they found it was a small island, and now they recognized it as the very same island they had seen in the beginning of their voyage, in which they had heard the man in the great house boast that he had slain Mael Dúin's father, and from which the storm had driven them out into the great ocean. Joan is asking if I can perhaps read it slowly. They turned the prow of their vessel to the shore. Is that slow enough? Sorry. It looks like I've been imbibing some of that delicious raspberry juice, the dodgy juice, psilocybin juice. Landed and went towards the house. It happened that at this very time, the people of the house were seated at their evening meal, and Mael Dúin and his companions, as they stood outside, heard a part of their conversation. Said one to another, "It would not be well for us if we were now to see Mael Dúin." "As to Mael Dúin," answered another, "it is very well known that he was drowned long ago in the great ocean." "Do not be sure," observed a third. "Perchance he is the very man that may waken you up some morning from your sleep." "Supposing he came now," asks another, "what should we do?" The head of the house now spoke in reply to the last question, and Mael Dúin at once knew his voice. "I can easily answer that," said he. Mael Dúin has been for a long time suffering great afflictions and hardships. And if he were to come now, though we were enemies once, I should certainly give him a welcome and a kind reception. When Mael Dúin heard this, he knocked at the door, and the doorkeeper asked who was there, to which Mael Dúin made answer, "It is I, Mael Dúin, returned safely from all my wanderings." The chief of the house then ordered the door to be opened, and he went to meet Mael Dúin and brought himself and his companions into the house. They were joyfully welcomed by the whole household. New garments were given to them, and they feasted and rested till they forgot their weariness and their hardships. They related all the wonders of... I'll start again. Sure, look, we'll start that one again. Everybody wants me to slow down. There's only 2 paragraphs left. They related all the wonders God had revealed to them in the course of their voyage, according to the word of the sage who says, "It will be a source of pleasure to remember these things at a future time." After they had remained here for some days, Mael Dúin returned to his own country, and Duran Leckard took the 5 half-ounces of silver he had cut down from the great net at the silver pillar, and laid it, according to his promise, on the high altar of Armagh. And thus, sadly, the story of the voyage of Mael Dúin concludes. And I'm very sorry that it has reached an end, because, I mean, it has been a thoroughly enjoyable voyage. I think you'll agree. I'm just having a look here. Another one that we should do in multiple episodes is The Pursuit of Diarmid and Grania, because, I mean, that's a very famous story, and I would love to re-familiarize myself with it. I'm just seeing how many pages it is and how many episodes it would take to do that. 274 to 350. Oh, yeah. We could certainly. There's at least 3 episodes there. What do you think? Will we start doing that? The only thing about this is these long stories that have to be done in multiple episodes. You're kind of better doing them, without a week's gap between them, because you might forget, the story otherwise. So maybe that's one we'll do in 3 episodes. But anyway, before you go, don't all leave the house, because there's no reason for people to scatter just immediately, because we can talk for a few minutes. I just want to remind you that pending the I was going to say rectification. That's the wrong word. Pending the rectifying of the technical issues on Eddie's end, I'm hoping that Monday's Live Irish Myths in Conversation series will begin with the storyteller Eddie Lenihan. That will be on Zoom, and I will, providing, as I said, the technical issues are sorted out, I will start to advertise that probably on Friday or Saturday, and there'll be a link on the Facebook page and on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, where you will go and register for the event, and then we'll do it on Zoom. That will be at 9 p.m. by the way, on Monday. That's an hour after we normally. The usual live streams are at 8 p.m. Irish time, which is 3 p.m. in New York, which is 12 noon in Seattle or Los Angeles. So we're going to be an hour later than that on Monday, if all goes to plan. So that will be, 4 o'clock New York time and 1 p.m. in Seattle. So again, the reason that we've done the Mael Dúin 3 backs-to-backs is because we've got the following Monday. Then we have Moncálm McGann, author of 32 Words for Field, that new book which a lot of you have bought and is a wonderful book, and also the presenter of the DNA Culture series. So I'm really looking forward to having both Eddie and Moncálm as guests on those. Elaine wants to know, can we do YouTube at the same time? We do that with our court dockets for those like me who don't have Zoom. I don't know. I mean, no, because I was going to upload it afterwards, to YouTube and Facebook, but I hadn't planned to kind of make it technically difficult for myself, because I think we'll have enough to deal with the Zoom. But Zoom is kind of fairly freely downloadable and available. It's not, you don't have to pay for it, don't you not? So I wonder whether you could maybe even download the app for your phone or your iPad or whatever, or your computer. And then the following week, so Monday week is MonCon. I think that's the 1st of February. And then on whatever the official date of in bulk is, it's probably the 4th, is it? Hang on, if I reference the Mythical Ireland calendar to find out. Because as you know, all the cross-border dates, if you've bought your calendar, in bulk is actually the Wednesday, the 3rd of February. So we will do an episode on the 3rd of February to mark the fact that it is in bulk and the beginning of spring, etc. How many can log in, says Brendan. I'm delighted to report that thanks to the help of Tracy O'Connor, who's a Mythical Ireland follower and friend, we have availability of an account that can actually facilitate 500 people, because I am aware that even those with paid for accounts can in a lot of cases can only accommodate 100 people. And I have a feeling with Eddie and MonCon that we'll have more. We regularly have 100 or so live viewers on Facebook. We regularly at the same time have 50 on YouTube, which would be 150. So there's no limit. There's no limit on the time on Zoom, because again, we will be using a properly paid for account, so we won't be locked out after 45 minutes or anything like that, providing, of course, the technology works and everything goes well. One is always conscious of the fact that we are at the whim of said technology. So that's the plan, is to do it all on Zoom. Now, a brilliant idea last night. Whose idea was that? Don't want to give credit wrongly, but was that Desiree? Was that you, or was that someone else? Somebody prompted me to think about doing a Mythical Ireland Live Irish Myths quiz, which I think would be brilliant. And that would be a quiz for fun, not competitive necessarily. I will compile a series of questions. I will think of some sort of a prize, or maybe a first, a second, and a third prize, something like that. And again, that we'll do that as a Zoom, but you can only really do that as a Zoom event, I think. And then I'm just trying to think about that. Does anybody have any idea how we would, so say we had 5 rounds of questions, just for argument's sake, it might end up being 10 rounds of questions. Say we had 5 rounds of 10 questions. Is there any way that we could get the answers in and checked and collated and do there isn't really. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that on my own. I may have to seek help with that one. It's just something to think about. That people have a way of sending their answers, and that we can sort of collate them in real time, myself and maybe a couple of helpers. I'm not sure. Maybe there'll be somebody who might help with that. And I have to think about that one. And actually, I've participated in a couple of quizzes, so I might ask the people who ran those quizzes how they use Zoom chat. Yeah, but does that mean that they only send it to me? You can use the chat to only send stuff to me, can't you? Yeah, but I'd need someone here to collate. Well, I could get help. I'm sure my very good, long-suffering, by the way, very patient wife, Anne, might help, or one or two of my kids might help. Because I would have the questions, and of course I would have the sheets with the answers on them. I would probably print them out on the night, so you guys could send your answers, and someone else could be checking them off here. But what happens if there's like 100 people taking part? Does that mean there's 100 sets of questions and 100, each for each round to be checked? That makes it very difficult, doesn't it? Could we organize teams? Could you guys group into teams? Could we have teams of 5? Just stuff to be thought of, yeah. Anyway, I definitely want to do it. I think it would be I think it would be great. A few people suggesting Google Form. Get Coda to help, says Mavanwe. Yeah. There are rooms in Zoom if you do Teams. Yes. Yeah, we could do that. First to type right answer in comments gets point, says Desiree. Oh, that would be excessively competitive. I think that would be excessively competitive. I'm not sure, but I'm glad there are ideas coming. Mavanwe says that she feels the need to revise for this. Well, before the quiz happens, you will need to rewatch all 137 episodes of Irish Myths. Yeah, right. You'll be watching for a week without sleep or food or anything. Psilocybin tea. Or if you set it up as multiple choice, it auto grades it. ArchDB says it puts all answers into a spreadsheet with columns for questions. Or if you set it up as multiple choice, it auto grades it. Yeah, I just need to get my act together. If any of you have any suggestions in terms of the organization of it, you see, we would need to have it so that, round one, okay, I ask the question. I'll ask them slowly and give you plenty of time. When we finish round one, I'll move on to round two, but you send in your round one answers, and there's someone here checking the round one answers while we're doing round two. So say if there's 5 rounds, there will be more than 5 rounds, I'm sure. Maybe there'll be 10 rounds. By the time we get to round 10 and we're asking the questions, we have already totted up all the answers for the first 9 rounds. And so that by a short time after the quiz finishes, we will know who the winning team or the winning person is and who's second and who's third, and we might give a prize for last place as well. No, we won't, because that will encourage you to get the answers wrong. Robin says we need a blackboard. I feel like I'm in school again. Anne McCallum says nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Yes. Yes, indeed. Anyway, let's think about it, but definitely want to do it. And definitely, it would be no problem from my point of view. I just need the time to do it. There'll be no difficulty noting down whatever we need, 50 questions or 100 questions. The main point is that on the night in question, we'll have good fun. Good fun. There'll be rare old crack to be had. And if a few of you want to have a dram, well, we might, that's perfect. You're all in your own homes anyway, so you'll be able to. But I need to just give it a little bit more thought. In the meantime, I'm collating questions for the Eddie episode, and also for Moncon. I want your questions, so I'm just going to paste that in again, the picture under which you should make your comment with your questions, because it makes it easier for me if you just post them under the picture of Eddie. Oh, I can't search right now because there's something wrong with. Yeah, so just scroll down the Mythical Ireland Facebook page and have a look. Morwena says, I'm only going to be a spectator. Not at all. Give it a go. We're not going to be competitive. We're not looking for the Mythflix Student of the Year or anything. Each person sends Anthony a list of all people who got the answer right. We'll get it. We'll sort it. We'll sort it out. We'll sort it out. But it should be good fun. So anyway, the next, I think, series of short. The next long tale that we'll divide into 3, I think, will be The Pursuit of Diarmid and Grania, which is one I've been looking forward to for a long time. We could just make it a casual quiz with no thought. Yes, indeed. And we could also throw in a couple of rounds that aren't at all connected with Irish mythology, just to mix it up and just give everybody a chance. I promise I'll not make it 2. There'll be one. I will make it. There will be one round that will be difficult. I just want to see how closely you've all been listening. Anyway, that is the latest episode. This has been episode 137. Ironically, more people are watching now than were watching throughout the story. It must be that word is spreading fast about this quiz that's coming up. I will start to put together some questions. Mastermind, says Patricia. Yes. What is your specialist subject? Ecclesiastical scribes in the 8th century. Yes. We'll Mythflix person of the year. Lol, says Movanway. Look, these are all brilliant. I wouldn't try to. I think it would be unfair, wouldn't it? Kevin Riley is just in. Kevin, what is the story like? Yes, we're finished. But hello and welcome, and we've just been talking about the planned live Irish Myths quiz, which should be a bit of fun, and of course. You'll all have to be muted during the questions in case one of you blurts out the answer and everybody hears it. I remember being on a quiz in which that happened, and then everybody was muted, but because you could see everybody, people were mouthing the answers, and if you were a good lip reader, you could get the answers from the other teams. Anyway, the next planned episode, as I said, is Monday's Live Irish Myths in conversation with Eddie Lenihan. I have to apologize that I still haven't, despite my promises, gotten around to doing a book talk, but we may do one between now and then. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I know that you value the distraction at the moment. I know that in a lot of places, the virus has taken pretty grim hold of the place. Our figures are higher than they've ever been since the beginning of the outbreak. And we are in a fairly strict lockdown now. And our police are Garda Síochána. And that, by the way, means the guardians of the peace. Our police force are issuing fines for people who are making non-essential journeys or straying outside their 5-kilometre area, which they weren't really doing in the previous lockdowns. So it's quite severe here now. And I appreciate that you all need the distraction. And you know what? I'm grateful for it too. So in the meantime, please, by all means, if you have ideas in terms of the quiz and how we might work it, reach out to me, send me an email. The email address is mythicalireland@gmail.com, and I'll type that in as a comment beneath the videos here. If I can do it on the computer is acting up here for Facebook, so I'm not sure if I can do it. I'll do my best. Send me an email and we'll see if we can't organize it, or we'll even see if we can organize it. Anyway, surprisingly aggressive for the Gardaí, but it's needed because there's a lot of people in the previous lockdowns who were just ignoring all the restrictions. So like it's there are people dying, and you know what? Some of the people who died this week are people that I know. In the previous lockdowns, thankfully, I didn't know the people who are dying, but now we're aware of a much greater prevalence of COVID-19 in the population. So it just makes sense to be careful, keep using the hand sanitizer, keep washing your hands regularly, cough and sneeze into the crook of your elbow, social distance, definitely wear a mask if you're going out and about at all times. Make sure you cover your nose as well as your mouth. Surprisingly, scientists have discovered your nose is connected to your lungs as well as your mouth. So I see so many people with their mask like that and the nose sticking over. Just doesn't make any sense. Yes, and 400,000 in the United States. So it's a serious situation. Anyway, stay safe and stay healthy, and keep coming back to us, and definitely come back to us for those Zoom episodes that are coming up. We should have great fun. In the meantime, Kulosov Ichawa, well, for the Australians, good day, mate. Have a good day. For those of you in the States, have a good afternoon. And for those of you on this side of the slowly revolving planet, Ichawa, Kulosov, Slán go fóill, and don't forget to Tóg go bugé. See you soon.